Good evening. This is Maestro with the Dawn of War 2 Retribution Elite Modcast. Today, we've got a full Faction War series between Chaos and the Orks. Our first player on the Chaos side going to be shreeH, playing as that Chaos Lord, that tanky melee hero who walks through cover and cannot be suppressed. His next teammate is going to be Asmon Ellington, a level 6 Chaos player who's playing as the Plague Champion, ranged Chaos Commander with a damage over time bolter, can get melee weapons later on. He also heals and repairs. Finally, we are going to have Cenzontotochtin. Man, been seeing a lot of this guy lately, playing as Sindri, Trollface, Chaos Sorcerer. On our other team, we're going to have ManOfFaith, otherwise known as Tex, the Legend, playing as the Mech Boy, teleporting Orc range commander who can also repair. It's going to be Dark Riku coming up next, playing as the Orc Commando Knob, a sneaky commando Orc who can shoot things, blow things up, and stab things. Next up, we're going to have Bruce Campbell, playing as the freebooters Orc War Boss. I think I just got to stop my pirate accent. But this is a tanky melee hero. Walks through cover but can be suppressed, can charge, be very aggressive, can get a lot of health regeneration, and knock things down. Alright then, as I said before, hope you're all staying safe with the coronavirus pandemic situation. But while you're stuck inside, I'm going to try to get you plenty of Dawn of War 2 cast for you guys to watch. Double Slug is going to be chasing down these heretics. Going to be taking quite a few of them, and I think it's going to be a one engagement for Bruce Campbell right here. But how is it going to be going for our Orc players on this side? Quite a bit better, in fact. I think. We certainly have Mech Boy just staying in cover right here, burning down some heretic models, although he is taking damage from the Chaos Space Marines. Chaos Space Marines, however, will tie up the Shooter Boys. One squad of Shooter Boys going to be forced off the field. So Mech Boy will teleport out of there into a different spot for cover. And now the Chaos Space Marines going to be tied up by the Sluggers, and that will be a one engagement for Orc players on this side. We do see ManOfFaith taking very strong advantage of the Mech Boy's mobility, using him very much to full effect, even keeping him in there very, very late. Just constantly teleporting him so that he's pretty much always in cover. If anyone comes to tie him up, he teleports away into a new spot for cover. So our Chaos players looking to move back out. It is a 1-to-1 cap, and VPs are pretty even. But it does look like our Orc players, as long as they had someone on the victory point, should be getting the double cap right now. Noise Marine's going to come out for Shroom, or shreeH. Doomblast to slow down the War Boss, but not going to do enough damage to him. I feel like I'm going to want personally, I would want to start seeing a Havoc squad from our Chaos players. The Orc aggression is starting to run over our Chaos players. But the War Boss might not get out of there alive, although he does knock down quite a few heretics in retreat. Stun Bomb going to go in. Slugger Boy's a little bit low on health. And oh, we got a Pain Boy as well, the Orky Doctor. Meanwhile, over here, we are going to see the Mech Boy. This time, not so lucky. I guess Tex actually this time waiting a little too long to retreat him. However, heretics attempting to capture the point. They will not be able to. Way too much Orc Daka. Gonna stop them. X button did not do its job. Ooh, I think there's gonna be another Orc commander. No, sorry. That's gonna be a Chaos commander going down. That Plague Champion. I could just tell with all the melee hits he was taking from that Pain Boy that he was gonna go down at some point. Man, these Chaos Space Marines need to be very careful. Suppression. Oh, look at this point blank suppression. Actually, I think that's gonna be the Commando Knob going down, and indeed it will be. And on this side, it looks like shreeH has moved up with his Noise Marines. Noise Marines, I can definitely see the value of Noise Marines in this matchup. They might take a little bit of damage on approach, but if they can shut down the Shooter Boys, that's a lot of range damage that to be stopped. Although right now he is, of course, focusing the Noise Marines more on the generators because of the fact that they are mechanically in this game a flamer weapon, even though I would imagine in the lore that's not exactly how they work out. But they are extremely effective against generators, is what I'm saying here. So effective that one generator is down, a node is down, another generator at half health. And Chaos players actually coming in pretty strong here, but here is the response from the Orks. Double Shooter Boys going to be burning down these Chaos Space Marines real quick, and I don't like this. I mean, he's moving in for the force melee, but, you know, without a melee charge, without any other way of anything else to tank the damage, those Chaos Space Marines, they really just can't. As much as they are definitely tankier than a squad of single Shooter Boys, when you've got 2 Shooter Boys fully upgraded, that's just way too much damage for the Chaos Space Marines to handle. Noise Marines, meanwhile, trying to look to silence these Orc shooters, but they're just far too many. We've got 4 squads of Shooter Boys between both Dark Riku and ManOfFaith. So that will be Orcs forced off, or rather Chaos forced off, but they did definitely do a number on the Orc power farm in the time that they were able to stay there. But it is their turn to come out on the field. They've pushed their way back. Dawn of War 2 is very much a game with a push and pull flow to it. Since you push forward with your units, at some point, if you win, you can push a little bit further, but eventually you will start losing health, start losing models, need to retreat your units, whereas your opponent, after they've been pushed off, will be healing, restoring models, and etc. So Warboss has charged in here, seeing that Angry Bits war gear, which I see very frequently these days. I mean, I've always seen it quite a bit. I do think it's a very good war gear because of the way it allows the Warboss to really close the gap in a way that a lot of other melee tank commanders cannot, at least not as early as the Warboss can do it in Tier 1. Chaos Space Marine, sorry, I think that was a Havoc squad going down in retreat. Yes, that was definitely one from Cenzontotochtin. No way he's making it through these triple Slugger Boys. Wow, Bruce Campbell with a full-on melee build. Just noticing it here. Triple Sluggers, Pain Boy, and of course, the Warboss. So, we're going to have our Chaos players trying to push in again. Mech Boy was going to be shut down by the Noise Marines. So he does just teleport out of there. Corn Worship, man, the worship range really is pretty long, but I mean, I'm sure it needs to be, given that it is a stationary mechanic. But just giving other Chaos units so much ability to close the gap as well. And Slugger Boy's in a huge amount of trouble here. Doom Blasted by the Heretics, Force Melee by the Chaos Space Marines. I don't think that's going to be the squad going down, but that still is a lot of models lost. And I think it will also be a full generator bash on this side. But what is Bruce Campbell going to make happen? Because Bruce Campbell, again, with the triple sluggers. But if they get in range with Heretics, that's going to be bad news for them. Because of that Doom Blast, I thought he wanted to have the Pain Boy try to come in time, drop a heal on one of those Slugger squads to try to keep them in there. Ultimately, not as successful of a push for the power by Bruce Campbell as it was for, I think, shreeH on this side. And Warboss going to go down too. As scary as the idea of triple Sluggers sounds to me, it has great retreat killing potential. Oh no, please don't lose the Pain Boy. I feel like it's not actually that effective. Oh no, he lost the Pain Boy. I don't think of it as super effective against what Cenzontotochtin has. You know, he's got the double Heretics. I think both are... No, only one's melee. Does have an Aspiring Champion. He's also got that Sorcerer with the Sword of Flame. And if he can pepper them down with range damage or Doom Bolts before they get into melee, by the time they can get into melee, they're going to be at risk for losing tons of models, possibly even dying entirely. Bruce Campbell's actually really hurting now, having lost both his Warboss and his Pain Boy. So for whatever advantages Orcs may have in this matchup, trading out directly with Chaos Space Marines usually isn't one of them, at least not if it's an equal number of squads. We did see in that much earlier engagement the way 2 fully upgraded squads of Shooter Boys were just ripping apart one squad of Chaos Space Marines, but you really need to have that numerical advantage. If you have 2 squads of Chaos Space Marines up against 2 squads of Shooter Boys, should be a win for the Chaos Space Marines, especially for Asmon, that level 6 Chaos player, if he is going to be using that Nurgle worship from the Plague Champions Heretics. Plague Fist, meanwhile, for Asmon. Noise Marines trying to shut down the Shooter Boys, but it is going to be the Mech Boy actually trying to tie them up. Meanwhile, a Warp Vomit from the Weird Boy, stunning the Chaos Lord for days. think the Chaos Lord might... Well, okay, Chaos Lord does hit 1 or 2 models with Kill the Weak, gives him a little bit of health regeneration, but not too much. Man, Orc players actually being pushed all the way back into their bases. ManOfFaith gonna be having those stick bombers as well as that weird boy. But our Orc players just push so far back into their bases, except for... Okay, well, actually, it's mainly just ManOfFaith here by himself being pushed back into his base, because here is a double by Riku and Bruce Campbell against Cenzontotochtin. Cenzontotochtin going to be in a lot of trouble. We see Ard Boys going off on the Sluggas. Another squad of Sluggas chasing down a squad of Chaos Space Marines. So that will be... It's going to be Cenzontotochtin forced off in this lane, and this time I do think the Power Bash will be successful. Way too many units here, but oh, here's a Dreadnought. Luckily, the Dreadnought's damage is low enough that they can stick around, make sure the Power Bash comes in, and then just retreat before they actually lose any full squads. Oh my god, Painboy going in for melee directly with the Dreadnought. He does not win that. I think he does some light damage because I'm pretty sure his Orc Choppa, that's it. That's what it's called. That's the technical term. His Choppa, I think, does do power melee. Uh-oh, here is some touch of Nurgle. Oh my god. Trying to kill these Orcs in retreat, knocking down the War Boss. And War Boss going down yet again. Stick Bombs going in, though, on the Havocs. Going to knock them down, but they don't lose a model. While on this side, ooh, wow. Chaos Shrine of Khorne on a side of the line of sight blocker, so it can't really be directly targeted unless someone can like lob some of those stick bombs over it, or unless we see something break through those walls. Plague Marines losing models from range fire from the Shooter Boys, and we're going to see... Oh, Heretics, they're in range. They're in range with the stick bombs, and even with that many low models, I think they win that. However, they are so low on models, and they took a hit from the Weird Boy, that they really need to be careful now. Plague Champion even committing the Pestilent Strike ability to stun them. Warp Vomit does not connect, and the Plague Champion looks like he's just going to walk on out of there, also upgraded with the Armor of Pestilence. At this point, I'm certainly, at least since coming back, I have only seen the Armor of Pestilence chosen by Plague Champion players. I even forget what the other Armor Warrior is for him in that slot, and I'll have to check up on that one again. Ooh, Zap going to go out on the Chaos Space Marines. Does damage as it moves back and forth between squads. And this will be Chaos players forced off. Or will it be? Oh my! We are going to have Cloud in retreat. Plague Cloud on top of. That is going to be the Robes of Torment, giving the Chains of Torment ability. Scares off all those Sluggas. They actually, not too many of them. I don't think, no squads wiped. Definitely a few models lost. But our Chaos players actually controlling the map. Let the galaxy burn. Gonna go in, knocking down the stick bombs, and this is actually starting to look really rough for our Orc players, our Orc heroes. Can there really be heroes among the? Well, I'm sure there can be, but I'm not sure who would be viewed as the heroes in this faction war. Of course, some people say there really are no heroes in 40K. Everyone is wrong and evil in their own way. So, Shrine going to be taken down. One of my favorite lines coming from the Chaos Lord. Doombolt's going to go in on some Shooter Boys, taking about 40% damage of their health. While Slugger Boys, they really don't want to be approaching here. There's just, oh my god, just models getting gibbed and sent into orbit. Just too much range damage between the Chaos Space Marines and even the Dreadnought, and they really just don't have an answer in return. What's going on here? Alright then. Oh, still going here? Alright, Noise Marines trying to come out of infiltration, but I think they revealed themselves prematurely, perhaps overestimating the worship range at this point. Doombolts go in. We still have the Dreadnought here, so I think this should be a one engagement for Cenzontotochtin purely on composition, although we do have a squad of tank busters hanging out in the back, but they were not in a position to really start opening fire. And the Dreadnought so far has taken minimal damage. Tank busters didn't even target the Dreadnought. Yeah, and that's just going to have to be a retreat. Once those Robes of Torment, the Chains of Torment went down, that was just going to be a one engagement for Cenzontotochtin. shreeH hoping for a res, but oh man, it's going to be Cenzontotochtin who has to revive both Chaos Heroes, but it's not a particularly hard position. In fact, I would say it's a pretty easy position, and that should actually level him possibly to 6 to get both revives. Unless the other heroes want to split the revive experience. Tank Buster barrages going in. Heretics taking advantage of that Heretic Worship as well as the line of sight blocker to get into melee. I think they're mostly dodging the... Oh. Yeah, they mostly dodged the stun bombs, and instead the stun bomb just did friendly fire and is stunning these shooter boys for days. But eventually the shooter boys get unstunned, but then they get hit by a Blastmaster Noise Marine shot. If the Heretics turn on this one squad of... Yes, so it is going to be a wipe on that squad of shooter boys that just took that fat Blastmaster shot. And I think the Heretics just retreat out of here alive. Blastmaster shot going to go in. Somehow not really connecting on the stick bombers at that time. And these tank busters from ManOfFaith, got to be careful. Oh my god, look at that. Hurts so much to get hit directly by any of the plasma cannon weapons in this game. Blastmaster counting as a plasma cannon. Even if it is not technically a plasma cannon in the lore, it does plasma cannon damage mechanically in this game, and it functions pretty much equivalent to the plasma cannon Devastator. Anyway, squad there does go down. I'm not sure whether that was for Cenzontotochtin or someone else. Cenzontotochtin about to lose another squad. Alright, does use the Cacophony, try to get his Noise Marines out of there. I'm not sure they're out of there alive, but then the Sluggers actually turn on the Chaos Space Marines instead. Oh my god. Triple Sluggers, just the damage is ridiculous. He's able to use a Robes of Torment to cover the retreat, but this is really starting to hurt for Cenzontotochtin. I'm at the point where I think I want to see a Mark of Khorne Dread. I feel like I want to see something else, even like a new Havoc that's kept pretty far back so that it's not really threatened by all those Slugger Boys. So, just like that, our Orc players kind of coming back into this game. They actually have a hold of the Chaos Natural Victory Point. They don't have the Contested Victory Point, which means they won't hold onto the double cap for very long, I don't think, unless they decide to put more pressure on the Chaos Natural Victory Point, which it looks like they may choose to do that, especially with Asmon moving his forces away, Asmon not having that much of his army right here. And so the Chaos Space Marines are going to be scared off the Natural Victory Point. So Victory Point's going to be freezed out at 1-to-1. So he delayed that, but now it looks like he's not committing, and instead it does look like our Orc players are going to be making a move for the Contested Victory Point. We've got one squad of Chaos Space Marines taking some light damage from that Mech Boy in cover. However, although he's in cover, I think he is a little bit outgunned, and he is a little bit low on health, but here is the support. Suppression going down on the Slugger Boys. It's Touch of Nurgle, though. Touch of Nurgle in retreat. Wow, that's actually funny, to cover their retreat. Oh, I think this is Bloodlust from shreeH. But shreeH going to be losing. I think that was his squad of Heretics. We're going to see the Chaos Lord go down as well. And things are starting to go south for our Chaos players, except for that Blastmaster shot going in, nearly killing the Weird Boy. Weird Boy going to get out of there alive. So close, though. And we are going to have our boys on these Sluggers. Sluggers chasing down those Chaos Space Marines. Here's some more suppression going in. I don't even see the Havoc that is causing that suppression. Or does that come in from the Chaos Shrine of Nurgle? Anyway, so Pain Boy has been upgraded with that strong Git Sauce. Stun bombs going in, but stun bombs followed up by the stick bombs. Can these Heretics get out in time? No, they can't. Take almost half their damage in damage, half their hit points in damage. These are not Heretics. Those are Khorne Marines. So they don't even lose a single model, even after taking half of their hit points in damage. Meanwhile, the War Boss here is very upgraded. He's got that heavy armor. Haven't actually seen that much of this lately. More typically, I'm seeing that spiky armor just because, well, maybe not just because, but at least one of the main reasons why is because you can get it quite a bit earlier than the heavy armor. But that heavy armor does make the War Boss pretty ludicrously tanky with the extra 900 hit points, as well as the increase to the health regeneration, especially on top of the health regeneration that comes out of Angry Bits. And he's been rocking the Bang Bang Hammer this whole game. which does increase the damage and speed of units as the War Boss makes melee attacks. Ooh, knobs out. Didn't even recognize them out on the field. These knobs going to be out here from ManOfFaith. Heretics, not going to win that fight directly, but they just want to suppress the knobs. I'm not even actually sure. I don't think it even serves much of a purpose to... Well, I guess it does. He wants to buy the Predator more time to put some damage in them. Meaner and Greener has been activated. Heretics really need to be careful. They are going to possibly get wiped. That was kind of a close call, but actually maybe not really. Meanwhile, Looted Tank coming out from... This is going to be Dark Riku. Looted Tank already upgrading to reinforced plating, since typically, well, I don't know about a Chaos Predator of Nurgle, but typically I would expect the Looted Tank. Certainly it would lose to a Zeech Predator, and I feel like it might lose to a Khorne Predator too, but that one I'm not as sure about. Stun Bomb's going to go in, but a big miss. The Plague Champion, I think he might have been going for trying to use Pestilence Strike and trying to use the damage resistance from Pestilence Strike to just get a decap on the victory point, but I don't think Pestilence Strike was ever activated. Here's a wipe on the Plague Champion. Oh my. There's a sync kill. Sync kill by the Slug and Knob on the Plague Champion. That is rough. Oh man, so we've got two Nurgle Predators. And you know, at this point, there were times before when I was kind of questioning the Nurgle Predator pick, and I think I'm at the point where I don't really question it that much. And particularly against Orks, I actually don't find it surprising at all. My sense of it is I personally feel like it could be very, very good against Orks. Stick bombs going in. Very, very minimal damage against the Chaos Predator, and not really a significant hit against any infantry. Yeah, Looted Tank actually in quite a bit of trouble now. So Looted Tank getting repairs from all those Sluggo Boys, but the Sluggo Boys need some repairs of their own. Where is the Pain Boy? Mech Boy in melee with the Chaos Space Marines. Mech Boy's got some upgrades. He's got that Beamy Death Gun to try to put some pressure on these Predators. He's also got that battery pack to basically, it's basically a heal, but it also restores energy and increases his own energy. What other upgrades do we have? Commando Knob, completely unupgraded. Bruce Campbell, we did see that already. shreeH, gonna have that Blood Maul as well as the Armor of the Inferno. Asmon Ellington, we can't tell exactly, but I do recall him having a Plague Fist as well as the Armor of Pestilence. And finally, Cenzontotochtin. Already seen most of these. Those Sword of Flame, that Sword of Flame, the Robes of Torment, and then finally, this one is new, the Tome of Subjugation. So Tome of Subjugation, I think the role, I mean, there are definitely many ways to use it, but I think the highest value it's going to have would probably be to slow down the approach of knobs. If he can get a little bit more value out of it, it could be trying to use the knobs directly against a looted tank, or if the looted tank is not in range, just using it against any other squad. Another viable possibility is to use it to target Sluggo Boys, since Sluggo Boys, although not as tanky as knobs, Sluggo Boys actually do a huge amount of damage when fully upgraded, especially since these Sluggo Boys from Bruce Campbell, they gotta be leveled, although here they're in trouble. Yeah, 3 squads of level 4 Sluggo Boys. The damage that those squads are going to be putting out is tremendous. I think, I'm not 100% sure, but the base DPS of that squad might actually be higher than the Knob squad. I'm not 100% sure on that. Of course, the Knobs do heavy melee damage, which is the most versatile damage type. So Knobs looking to move in, and Knobs are definitely going to be the biggest threat to the Predator. Oh my, well, that is the Mech Boy, definitely having a new upgrade. Mech Boy this time has been given the Knobs, the Super Tough Beam, make them 40% more resistant to damage and immune to knockback and suppression, although it looked like they were suppressed at some point. Oh man, look at how quickly they are taking down even that Chaos Predator, but the Chaos Predator starting to get away, but not quite. I thought it was getting away. It was getting the health regeneration that it gets from being a Nurgle Predator, but the Looted Tank was able to chase it down and finish it off. Looted Tank itself may now be in trouble. Looks like it has gotten out of the range of the Predators, but it took a shot from the Plague Marines. Can it get out of there? Plague Marines, oh no, it's getting stuck on the tree. All right, and the one looted tank goes down. I think that ultimately came from Power Fist swings from our Terminators. Terminators going in hard, trying to get the other one. They burn their teleport there. This is a really rough position for the Terminators, and they could be in a huge amount of trouble. What was that melee attack? That like special attack from the stick bombs? That was crazy. So Plague Champion this time indeed using Pestilence Strike to try to capture. Gets the decap. Looted tank in a lot of trouble. Looted tank down to 0 hit points, taking one final shot. That is being so rough. What are our Orc players going to do? They are not having the better end of these tank battles. That looted tank just not holding up compared to these Chaos Predators. Chaos Predator of Nurgle already at level 2, and then meanwhile we've got the Corn Predator out of Cenzontotochtin. Oh, Pain Boy, so close. Pain Boy does not go down because the Knobs are here to intercept the Corn Marines. Corn Marines at level 4, though, actually don't do so bad against the Knobs. So Knobs now chasing down the Corn Marines. Oh my god, this is still just okay, there is the Tome of Subjugation, using those Knobs to put some damage in return on the other Knob squad, but that does mean, okay, we are going to see the Blood Maul using the Sweeping Doom ability, knock down some more Knobs. So we're seeing the Knobs at this moment being very well controlled, and I feel like soon, oh wow, there's the upgrade. Finally the upgrade to the Mark of Khorne. And once the Knobs see that, they realize that they're not really winning that fight anymore, especially not at that low hit points. 179 to 188 victory points. What a game we're having here. Havocs realize they're in trouble because the Sluggers have gotten around their firing arc. Havoc is actually still in a huge amount of trouble, and the Sluggers do not continue their pursuit. Doombolt's going to go in on all these Orcs. Slugger's now actually in a huge amount of trouble. Could be a wipe on that squad of Slugger Boys from whose Slugger Boy model is that? I want to see. It is one of Bruce Campbell's, and no. Bruce Campbell losing one of his level 4 Sluggers that he had alive since the beginning of the game. This is not looking good. Not looking good for our Orc players, I'd say. Although shreeH has definitely suffered a lot of losses of his own. He does have his, oh wow, he's got his Terminators now equipped with the Lightning Claws. Now, the obvious reason for getting the Lightning Claws is how extremely effective they would be against Terminators. And, I mean, the truth is they would really be effective, not against Terminators, against the Knobs. The truth is they would actually be pretty effective against anything. However, the main thing that they're necessary for are the Terminators. Otherwise, back when there were still a bunch of looted tanks out on the field, I really wanted to see the autocannon, but here we're going to see the Bloodlust Global from the Chaos Lord. One Orc squad was taken down there, and here is an Imperial Abyss. No one's actually quite retreating through the Imperial Abyss, but a Slugger model is pulled in. I think a Slugger squad does go down there. The other one has to retreat straight through it. I can't even speak English right now. And I think that is a wipe on one of those shooter squads. And I think I see that being the game in favor of our Chaos players for Game 1. Game has not officially ended yet, so there technically is still time. But I'm not seeing a whole bunch of resources out of Dark Riku, although we see a whole bunch of resources invested by Bruce Campbell. Terminators moving forward. But I think I really want to see them actually restore their health, because they're at half health. Terminators at this point probably will start losing a model. They're going to get stunned by the stun bombs, which means some shots from the Weird Boy are going to go in, as well as some stick bombs. This could definitely be... oh my god! It's going to be a Rocks, but I think it's the Rocks coming in a little too late. Oh, yeah, the Rocks were way too late. I think it would have been a really, really cool combo, but it honestly needed to be way earlier than it was. Especially on Terminators, who, when they get stunned, actually have no choice but just to wait it out. Compare that to any other squad can just retreat if they really want to, but not Terminators. Terminators cannot retreat. Terminators, meanwhile, they're even lower. They still have not lost a model, now at about 33% of their hit points. Pain Boy moving in, walking ahead of the Terminators and the Chaos Lord. I'm not sure where he's going. I think he's looking for a heal on the Knobs. He gets the heal in on the knobs, but it's not good enough, and he just ends up having to walk out of there, and not a whole lot was achieved. I think it's just really desperation moments. We do have the Battle Wagon, but the Battle Wagon already being focused down so much. Battle Wagon at only about 30%, 33% of its hit points. Now less. So late game power bashes, trying to get some more red, see if they can possibly use some nukes. This is Asmon Ellington's Nurgle Predator, going for that themed army with the Nurgle Predators for the Nurgle Champion. Doombolt's going to go in on the Commandos. And it's just seeming rougher and rougher for our Orc players at the moment. Oh my, with Tome of Subjugation on the knobs, but now he's not... Okay, well, the Battle Wagon just drove away from the knobs, but the knobs still not currently doing any damage at the moment. And then it's just going to be the Robes of Torment, the Chains of Torment, to slow down the knobs yet again. So knobs actually being shut down pretty hard here by Cenzontotochtin at the moment. However, I think Cenzontotochtin now overstaying his welcome, and I think at some point he might just have to use the Warp Global to get the Dreadnought out of there, possibly just waiting for the... Yes, there it is. I was going to say waiting for the Sorcerer to retreat away a little bit more. Warboss, meanwhile, is trying to stop this squad of heretics. This time, Warboss is now upgraded to the Power Claw, decides he just wants that raw damage as well as the threat that it can put on vehicles. Right here, I mean, this is something that could threaten to kill the... I was going to say, could threaten to kill the Dreadnought. Not committing to it, though. Oh, his health was way too low. For some reason, his health bar not showing. But yeah, his health was just way too low for him to actually stay around there, especially with the Khorne Marines approaching. So, meanwhile, Tzeentch Marines going to be unloading their weapons on the Stick Bombers. Stick Bombers actually now in a massive amount of trouble. This should actually be Stick Bombers killed. I don't know, just micro drop there, especially an ending with a sync kill on the Stick Bombers. Another weird boy, potentially in trouble, just taking too much range fire from the Nurgle Predator. Man, these Nurgle Predators, the more and more I watch them, the more and more that they actually do just seem really, really good. And our Orc players have been hanging on, but I feel like this is more just like a slow burn towards the eventual win for our Chaos players. Could I be wrong? I'm not sure. And no, I don't actually know what's going to happen because this is my first time watching this replay. So, Commando's going to be sneaking around, kind of in range of all of these Predators. Man, what are they going to do against these Predators? I mean, I almost want to see, like, Luda's purchase for that Def Gun, the Beamy Def Gun, rather, just for the raw damage. Here is going to be a Rocks, but that is also going to be our players just kind of driving out of it. No attempt to combo that with something like some stun bombs. Knobs, meanwhile, going to go in on some Slugger Boys because they have been mind controlled by the Tome of Subjugation. Big special attack at the right time for the Sorcerer. Sorcerer actually going in, trying to chase down this one remaining Slugger model. Slugger model at 40% of it, so 40 hit points, not 40%, and not going down. Another Slugger model going out, retreating at 40 hit points. Level 4 Sluggers can't do anything. Oh. Why'd you get so many Sluggers? This is, oh my god, it just seems worse and worse. How many there are 4 Predators and 3 Nurgle, 1 Khorne. No Tzeentch. Tzeentch is disappointed. Meanwhile, it is going to be the Mech Boy trying to use the super tough beam on himself. Gets the decap, but he does go down in retreat, and ManOfFaith is actually going to be calling the GG. Yeah, that Nurgle tank. I mean, it's hard to kill. Oh my, what a big stomp out of that great unclean one. So VP's still ticking down, but soon it's going to be a double cap for our cast players. Tome of Subjugation yet again on the knobs, making the knobs turn on the commandos. Knobs even still suppressed by that suppression from their own base turrets. Wow, that suppression also lasted a really long time, too. 2-1, victory points ticking down. What a game here. And that will be the end of this game. So, we've got some more games ahead of us, but man, what are the Orc players going to do about those Nurgle Predators? I guess we're just going to have to find out in Game 2. Alright then, game number 2 in our faction war between the Chaos and the Orcs will be taking place on Angel Gate. What a classic map. We're going to start off with our shreeH playing as the Plague Champion, a ranged Chaos Commander with a damage over time bolter, can get melee weapons later on, can also heal and repair. Next up, we're going to have Asmon Ellington, has actually leveled his Chaos Army from level 6 to level 7, and he is also going to be playing as a Plague Champion. Finally, on the cast team, we're going to have Relentless Love Lacia, who in reality is not Lacia and is Best Noob. Best Noob going to be playing as Sindri, Trollface, Chaos Sorcerer, a spellcasting and battlefield manipulation hero. On the Orc side, we're going to have Dark Riku, this time playing as the Orc Mech Boy, the teleporting Orc ranged commander who can repair vehicles. Next up, it's going to be ManOfFaith, also known as Tex, the Legend, playing as the Orc Commando Knob, a sneaky Orc who has bombs, guns, knives, etc. And finally, it's going to be Marky Mark, playing as the Orc Warboss, a tanky melee hero who can be suppressed, but can walk through cover and can be very aggressive with all his health regeneration and charging abilities. So, we did see last game, those Orcs just struggled tremendously with those Nurgle Predators in the late game. Let's see what they can do here. One option is to try to not make things go to the late game. Can they end this game before our cast players manage to buy 4 Predators? That is one theory. Inflict a lot of losses, put down a lot of VP pressure, and just try to end the game a little bit earlier, since that last game was a 35-minute game. Anyway, double cap for our Orc players, so they're getting the early victory point lead. We're going to see Generator Bash happen by these unupgraded shooter boys in the top, while these Sluggers, where are they going? They are going for, I suppose they're going for maybe the power over here? It's always just a long run to that power. Typically, that's a pretty safe power farm on this side because it is so far, such a far push for your team. And all things considered, this is actually a very slow start to Game 2. Very few engagements happening, just some light skirmishing. Commando Knob is here. Chaos Space Marine starting to open fire on the shooter boys. The Commando Knob actually decides to get inside the garrison so that he can be relatively safe while putting out a lot of range damage. Certainly puts in some range damage right now against one of those Plague Champions. But here we do see some Blight Grenades out from Asmon Ellington. Blight Grenades, really any kind of grenade is a garrison counter. I'm choosing not to use it against the Commando Knob. I thought he was using that in particular to force the Commando Knob out of that building. Instead, it looks like he's going to use them here to force these shooter boys out of cover, and it just scares them into a full retreat. One shooter model goes down, firing its shooter in death. While over here is the Sorcerer. Sorcerer going to be a little overwhelmed, I would say, but it looks like he's doing okay. So one squad of Sluggers scared into retreating. Now it's just the squads of shooter boys. They are splitting up to try to kite and focus fire him, but he will get out of there just fine. Meanwhile, on the bottom, we do see a squad of Havocs. I think they were, although they were set up, I think they lost that because we had suppression coming out of one squad of shooter boys using aiming what's that, then the other one just focused it down a little bit, and then after the Havocs are no longer suppressed, the other squad of shooter boys can use aiming what's that. Meanwhile, we're seeing some suppression come out of our Orc players as well. A Luda squad for Marky Mark, and we do have Riku already upgrading to the Beamy Def Gun. Sorry, the regular Def Gun, not the Beamy Def Gun. But this is not going to go well going into the bunker. He can't shoot because the Noise Marines are shutting him down. And both the Noise Marines, as well as, oh my god, we've got 2 Plague Champions with the Bile Spewer. I really don't think any Orc unit can really afford to go into the garrison at this point. The best thing that can happen is that the Commando Knob and the Mech Boy will not die from going in. Actually, I might be wrong about that. Mech Boy might be going down. Alright, luckily he doesn't get out right in front of the Blight Grenade, but Commando Knob looking so low on hit points. 5. Goes down to 5. So, garrison counters being picked up all around by many players, with that Commando Knob also choosing to get those stick bombs. And Grenade Launcher Heretics. Since this is a pretty garrison-heavy map, well, those Grenade Launcher Heretics might not be alive for much longer. Slugger Boys get into melee with the Havocs, scaring them off, even though these Slugger Boys are so low in terms of models. They don't want to get into melee with the Heretics. This could be a wipe. It's not going to be a wipe. But that was still a very scary moment for ManOfFaith. Even choosing to infiltrate his Slugger Boys in retreat. Marky Mark calling for some help from ManOfFaith. Claims he's getting doubled. Meanwhile, I think this Chaos Space Marine squad is in a huge amount of trouble. I actually wish the Sluggers would have turned around and started engaging on these Chaos Space Marines. Probably could have taken out at least one model and possibly even wiped the squad there. So, teleporting in Mech Boy, slowing down the Heretics, so they can't do much right here. And the Noise Marine's in a lot of trouble, too. Oh, they get unsuppressed, get around the firing arc, and then they actually get into melee. Wow. And once they get into melee, that's just a clear win against the Shooter Boys, who do not stand a chance against Heretics in melee. Mech Boy, meanwhile, in cover. He is against those Heretics. Heretics do get suppressed. We see a squad of Chaos Space Marines here as well. It does feel like our Orc players might be struggling a little bit in terms of power, though. They don't have this power node right here. They do have this one. It does have a full farm. Looks like it even took some damage, though. Plague Champion using the Bilious Discharge to slow down the War Boss's approach. Man, he just can't go anywhere with that. Man, that Bilious Discharge, what is the slow percent on that? Alright, I can't check it from here. I'm going to need to check it from... And it's funny, it even has a passive slowing just by attacking. 20% slow just by attacking, but then that Bilious Discharge, that was a pretty intense slow. That looked like 80 or 90% slow. Slugger Boys, meanwhile, will be able to bash generators. Ooh, full retreat. Well, actually not full retreat, but I mean just instant retreat on this squad of Slugger Boys. Still actually losing quite a bit of health, and it was also a rather unfortunate retreat path, too. This Slugger Boy squad getting a much better retreat path. So even just being that little much more up north on the map gave that Slugger squad a better retreat path than the first one that was in there. So ultimately only, it looks like 2 generators were taken down. That's why we see 2 being rebuilt. 400 victory points for our Chaos players to 311 for our Orc players. Weird Boy going to be throwing in some shots. Then I think he's trying to use the Zap ability. It looks like the Zap cast, but I don't see the Zap effect on any squads. Maybe it was interrupted just in the middle of casting and he had, I don't know, he had just walked away and interrupted it. Warp Vomit goes in, but that will have to be a retreat on the Weird Boy, otherwise he would actually die there to the Heretics. In fact, I mean, it was still looking scary. So, Tier 2 purchases coming out from our Orc players. We already saw the 1 Weird Boy. We're going to have a second. We're also going to have a Death Dread and some Stick Bombs. Point blank. Well, maybe not exactly point blank, but very close range Def Gun shooting from the Mech Boy, but he is able to get tied up by the Chaos Space Marines because he wasn't targeting them. Instead, he was targeting that other squad, which I think was a squad of Heretics, but I've already forgotten. So Mech Boy getting back into the bunker, shooting at long range on these cast Space Marines to suppress them. But a turret is set up, heavy bolter turret. Now this is going to need to be, yes, Burners on the Death Dread right away to dislodge that turret, because really nothing else can really deal with that turret very effectively. And at the same time, there's not much of a response to the Death Dread. The Death Dread really, oh my god, oh, it was upgraded to a las cannon turret, but the Death Dread actually just walked straight around it. That is hilarious. Got around it, wasted upgrade. Looks like one cast squad went down there, but here is Touch of Nurgle. Touch of Nurgle making the... Whenever a model is killed, it does knockback on death, and it also heals their other models of the squad. But it looks like this squad might go down anyway. No, just kidding. Too many hit points on that Aspiring Champion. False hype. Oh, could this Plague Champion go down and retreat? I think it's so close. Taking some point-blank shots from that mech boy, and yet... I think he does get out of there alive. Teleports into the retreat path again, and no, he does not get out of there alive. Plague Champion is here, but I think he's way overwhelmed. He just needs to get out of there. Blight Grenade thrown in, but now that's the Plague Champion dying very unnecessarily and very unfortunately. 2 Chaos Heroes down. That is going to be... Both Plague Champions have been killed, which is going to be really rough. I think that's... Even though these are really right in the middle of the map, I don't think those are actually going to be easy revives for the Sorcerer. The Sorcerer kind of as a less tanky hero, can't really stick around just trying to revive under fire, so they're really going to need to push back the Orks at some point. But instead, it's the Orks who are pushing in, courtesy of the power of that Death Dread. Asmon Ellington actually just choosing to buy back, and instead he's going to look for the revive on shreeH. IED right here, a really booby trap, should be coming out from the commando knob. Yes. So they actually switched out the stick bombs, going for this booby trap. Now, one of the interesting things that I was checking as I was looking at that IED was that it said it did something like 170 detonating damage and up to 1,300 to nearby buildings. That means there are actually some buildings on this map that IED could kill entirely, such as this civilian structure. Some of these bunkers would take 2, but that does it. They need to be careful of that, because the possibility is that if it is used on those structures and it actually destroys the structure, it does instantly kill whatever unit is inside of it, be it a squad or a commander. Commander, of course, can be revived. But this is starting to look rough. Oh no. Mech Boy teleports in on that flanking Plague Champion. That flanking Plague Champion not achieving too much. And shreeH not too happy about, I don't know, just how things are going on this map. I'm rage quitting. Sluggo Boys right here, probably looking for some generators. In fact, I think they probably got one, but they were intercepted by some cast units. We're not having a very ranged-oriented army from many of our cast players, particularly shreeH. Really most of them. We're not going heavy on melee for our cast players, so part of what that means is that they don't really have strong retreat killing potential. Ranged Dreadnought in a head-to-head against a Death Dread, but the Death Dread is being targeted by so many other units, by another ranged Dreadnought, as well as a Plague Marine squad. However, one of those Dreadnoughts does go down. I think it's going to be... That to me seems like a... I was going to say a winning trade for our Chaos players. They've still got a walker out on the field. But at the same time, I also think the Death Dread did a lot in the time that it was alive. Took down quite a few generators. Took down that turret that was covering the natural power farm, or rather, maybe not the natural, but this power farm. Stick bomb's going to go in. Going in on that Havoc squad in the garrison. Oh my god, that's a wipe on the Havoc squad. So those garrisons, man. I mean, garrisons are pretty rough in Dawn of War 2. They're honestly very much a death trap. they are actually very good when you don't have any garrison counters, but once you do, they become such a death trap. Speaking of death, here is a plague cloud of Nurgle on these Orks. I think some of these Orks are going to need to retreat, but it might even be a little too late. Stick Bomb is probably gone. It's a real close call. I think this... Okay, no, the Stick Bombers do not get out of there alive. I think a squad... Oh my god, this plague cloud... Yeah, that got a lot of value. I think it took out a squad of Stick Bombers, and I think it took out one other squad. Not sure whether it was Heretics or... No, it couldn't have been Heretics. I'm not sure whether it was Sluggers or Shooters. And interesting to see the autocannons picked up. I mean, we definitely see builds all around for our players have been very different on this map compared to the last one. A lot of focus on those garrisons, meaning a lot of focus on abilities that can counter a unit that chooses to get into the garrison. Speaking of garrisons, Foot of Gork. And you might be asking, what does the Foot of Gork have to do with garrisons? I think the Foot of Gork is actually also something that is very, very powerful against garrisons. That one was not quite hit directly on it, but I think if a Foot of Gork is used on a garrison, I think it can actually destroy many garrisons. Much like that booby trap. Commando Knob going to be upgraded with that sneaky infiltration kit, removing the energy drain from infiltration and gives him the grappling hook ability, which is a very funny ability to see in action. Heretic's going to be running away from the Slugger Boys. At this point, I think it needs to be a Doom Blast and a retreat. Actually, just going for the retreat raw with no Doom Blast, which gives the Sluggers so much more retreating potential. They might even wipe the squad here. This would be crazy, but I don't think they do. But they definitely killed a lot of models in retreat. So, Beamy Luda going to be out for Marky Mark, but not targeting the Chaos Dreadnought just yet. Grenade Launcher Heretics putting in some damage on those Shooter Boys. Going to be a lot of damage on them. And at this point, I would honestly be very, very surprised to see any units going inside the garrison. Really inside any garrisons, with just how many units have been... Okay, you know, just as I say that, there is a mech boy inside a garrison. But I was just going to say, just as we see that at this point, there's so many counters to those garrisons that there's just so much threat if you choose to actually go inside. Oh, Havoc was in a huge amount of trouble, but with Touch of Nurgle activated, looks like they die anyway. The one model had died, restoring the hit points of the other one, so that is a Havoc that is gone. I don't know. At this point, I'm kind of doubting those autocannon Havocs because they're just these Slugger Boys are actually getting into melee, actually doing quite a bit. In fact, I don't think we have any suppression Havocs left. I mean, we really only have one Havoc squad left. I think 2 were wiped. So Knobs, meanwhile, now coming out. So we are in Tier 3. Chaos Dreadnought in a lot of trouble. One Chaos Dreadnought in trouble. I think this Dreadnought goes down. Yeah, they just need one more hit. Yeah, so that's one Dreadnought down. Could possibly threaten the other. No, Chaos Dreadnought from Best Noob, moving in a safer position.
You may fail us this day.
So a little bit of a lull in the action. We've got a tank out from Dark Riku. We don't have any tanks out for our cast players yet. Asmon's the only one who actually could even choose to get one. Best Noob not in Tier 2. shreeH only starting it now. Oh, and that actually is the end of the game. So I think that's the series tied up. Orc players taking that game and did actually have such an advantage in tech that they were quite ahead. So let's move on to Game 3. Alright then, game number 3 going to be taking place on Angstrom Heights. For our Chaos players, we are going to have Relentless Lacia playing as the Plague Champion, a ranged Chaos Commander with a damage over Time Bolter who can get melee weapons later on, can also heal and repair. His first teammate is going to be Cenzontotochtin, playing as the Sorcerer, Sindri, Trollface, Chaos Sorcerer. This is a battlefield manipulation and control hero. Finally, on the Chaos team, we're going to have Asmon Ellington, playing as the Chaos Lord. This is a tanky melee hero who walks through cover and cannot be suppressed. And what a skin this is. We should get a better, closer look at it. There it is. That's the best we're going to get. Anyway, on the Orc side, oh boy. We've got a trio of Orc war bosses. Tanky melee heroes. Very aggressive. Lots of gap closing potential. Our first one's going to be Marky Mark. Next up, it's going to be Dark Riku. And then finally, joining the team of the Orcs is going to be Nimmsi. So we saw how our Orc players came back into this series with that aggression, and I feel like certainly the war boss definitely gives a lot of potential for aggression. However, he is also kind of the most linear and straightforward of the Orc heroes, since those other Orc heroes have a lot of trickery and also just a lot of creative solutions up their sleeve. That Mech Boy, because he can teleport, that Commando Knob, because he can infiltrate, as well as just they have a lot of creative war gear choices, whereas the war boss quite a bit more straightforward, but he can also just be so tanky. And if you do have Now I'm Angry or those angry bits on multiple war bosses, they can come in from different angles, and we'll just see how it goes. And so our Orc players this time really choosing to focus on shooty builds. We have 2 shooter boys from every Orc player, so very different approach compared to the way Bruce Campbell did things in Game 1. And, you know, I feel he did kind of pay for it. He tried it, and it did. Those triple slugger boys in Game 1, they, of course, had a lot of retreat killing potential, but then we also saw him complaining in the late game that his level 4 slugger boys just couldn't do anything. So, Chaos players pushing in, though, in the bottom. Certainly, when you have the Plague Champion, you do have a much more range-heavy build than the other Chaos heroes early on. And it looks like that's an early Mucus Discharge upgrade, just to give his unit some on-the-field sustain, helps him trade out positively against those shooter boys, which he should already be doing, especially now that he's got the Nurgle Worship as well. In fact, this is looking like a pretty rough position. It's going to require some aggression from our war bosses. They will need to walk in there. They've already lost so much in terms of generators that they need to start making their move. They're being a little bit passive here, but you know, once they've got the 2 war bosses, I feel like that's time to go in. Looks like it's going to be Dark Riku seeing if he can find some flanking angles. I think I do want to see. At least right now, I'm feeling like I want to see those angry bits yet again. It would just make it a lot easier to close the distance and then really ruin the day for all of these Chaos units, because the Riku war boss is going to be here kind of isolated, but finally here does come the support from Nimmsi. Unfortunately, Riku's war boss needs to get out of there. I think there might be enough here, but the Slugger Boys already being forced off. We have some Bleed Boys coming in, and the Bleed Boys, now that the Heretics are gone, Bleed Boys are going to have free reign action. Bleed Boys, just the way that I affectionately refer to Storm Boys. Ooh, can they actually finish off the Plague Champion? I don't think they can. Since Storm Boys are not the most commonly seen unit for Orcs, and the reason kind of being is that they are not particularly tanky, and yet they do cost a fair amount to reinforce their models, not just requisition but also power. So in that sense, they can be a little bit of a liability if you do not use them well, because they can have economic repercussions. Just a lot of power bled, whereas normally when we think of bleed, we're talking about, usually it's bleeding requisition, but then as you get to tier 1.5 units, and especially tier 2 and tier 3 squads, they will have a power cost to reinforce as well, which is not true of units such as things like Chaos Space Marines, basically those base tier 1 units that don't require any power to put out. Although Storm Boys, what they can do is that they actually do quite a bit of damage. High base DPS, and every model does power melee. So especially if they do jump on something like a Havoc, they can rip it apart quite fast. So here is the Chaos Lord, and it's actually amazing how much smaller the Chaos Lord is compared to that War Boss. So Raptor's in here, but it looks like the War Boss, is he in retreat? Yes, the War Boss is in retreat. You can tell that, by the way, once he starts swinging his arms like that, that's how you know that that's strictly a retreat animation, and it happens as the War Boss's speed increases, since you accelerate, units accelerate as they are in retreat. So here is a garrison, talking about garrisons from that last game. Not as many on this map. Luda Squad going to set up, see if we can slow down this approach. Let's see how this works out. Unfortunately, the lead model is killed, so it needs to reset up. Heretics actually even get around the firing arc, actually trying to go in to suppress it. It's going to have to be a quick Doom Blast, though, and then they're going to have to retreat out of there. Another model on the Luda Squad is killed, and now the Heavy Bolter turret is set up. So as much as, I was saying, I think those Orcs need some aggression, and the War Boss kind of provides it, now they're in quite a bit of trouble with this Heavy Bolter turret here. I think there would be easier answers if we did see if there was either a Commando Knob or a Mech Boy. I think at this point what they have to consider, no Angry Bits from any of our Orc players. I was going to say, put Angry Bits on multiple players, charge in with, like, Angry Bits on 2 players, and then charge in from different directions. Here, to the left of the turret and to the right of the turret. But right now this turret just being uncontested, power's going to be destroyed. This is not looking good for our Orc players in this game. Our cast team really wants to bring the series to a 2-1 lead. Full power bash. So Orc players keeping this power farm, but now they don't have the same power income that our cast players have. Plus 64 for our cast players, only plus 32 for the Orcs, so that is kind of rough. They did have a bit of a tech lead, with most Orc players being ahead of most cast players, and Nimmsi is building a Death Dread, so with any luck he'll be able to return the power bashes, but the problem is that it's a power bash that's going to becoming later, and typically power bashes are more impactful the earlier they are in the game. Just the nature of the way this game works, where you just generate resources over time based on the resource points and resource structures that you have. Meanwhile, War Boss is in here, but he's suppressed by the Havocs, and this is something that is honestly very, very hard to dislodge, except for the fact that we finally have this Death Dread with the Burners and Bits. And that will dislodge it. Without this, it would have been very hard to dislodge. We are just going to see the Burners make that Heavy Bolter turret just melt down in seconds. So they took care of it, but at the same time, they lost so much in the process with all those generators gone. And they really did not have an answer in return. So I think here's the attempted answer in return, and right now there actually really isn't sufficient anti-vehicle response. So actually, this should be a full power bash by our Orc players, and honestly, it needs to be. Because even if it is a full power bash, it's not going to be as impactful as the Chaos power bash. And I think they really need to commit to the full power bash, because there is no response from our Chaos players. Now, our Orc players may not know that exactly, but at the very least, they can see the units that are out on the field, and none of them have anti-vehicle weapons. Havocs also can't upgrade without telegraphing their upgrade the way that other setup squads have. Kind of always just that is kind of actually a pretty big disadvantage to Havocs compared to, say, Devastators or heavy weapon teams, that they can't upgrade without visually telegraphing the upgrade, which also means they're not set up while they upgrade. They'll need to reset up once they finish upgrading. Major disadvantage for the Havocs. And up top, it looks like we are going to see some more Orc structures go down, but here is some Use Your Choppas and some Ard Boys on top of these Chaos Space Marines. These are Corn Marines, but that's also Use Your Choppas and Ard Boys. Orcs at some point, though, Slugger Boys at some point are going to start losing a lot of health and models. Unfortunately, I think one more power generator probably going to go down if it's focused. I mean, they just need to hit it just a little bit. And I actually think it's more worth it to just kill this generator. Okay, actually, they want to win the fight. And I think they do. Sorcerer gets into melee. Can he actually finish off the Slugger? He does finish off the Slugger. That hurts. But the War Boss is back out here. So they will finish off that one generator. I don't think they can finish off this next one, because the War Boss will absolutely win head-to-head against the Sorcerer. Sorcerer stands no chance in that head-to-head. So a full Power Bash did happen, but it does look like the Death Dread may have also overstayed its welcome, and I'm kind of not happy about that. I think there was the possibility to get that full Power Bash without having the Death Dread overstay its welcome. Now, this is a rather slow chase given how slow these Plague Marines are, but they are snaring the Death Dread. But I'm not seeing any support for it. So eventually, I think it is one, maybe two more missiles until this Death Dread goes down. One more, yeah, so one more will guarantee it, and at this point, it is pretty much guaranteed to go down. Just need a wind-up. Oh! Death Dread charge! But it's going right into some more Chaos units who actually can finish it off. It's so low on hit points. The Death Dread, this heroic Death Dread, can it get out of there alive? That's crazy! It does! Managed to use its charge just in time to get away from the Plague Marines. And then there was enough support so that those other units couldn't do enough light damage to finish it off. That was a crazy, crazy, great escape. Storm Boys have their knob, so that means that they will stun whenever they land. One of those disadvantages of the Storm Boys is baseline. They don't knock back or suppress the way Raptors or Assault Marines do. They just jump in next to you. But once they do have their knob, they will stun on landing. Now, off the top of my head, the Storm Boy DPS with the knob is something like in the 200 range. So, especially against, they get another stun in. They're going to be targeting the Havoc because they will rip that Havoc apart real quick. But there is so much counter initiation that they do have to retreat. Storm Boys do lose a single model. Havocs need to get out of there too. So they did their job of just getting rid of the Havocs. But ultimately, this is going to need to be the Orc players retreating, trying to just stall out the power being recaptured. However, I just realized that we've got an even bigger problem for our Orc players. They are extremely low on victory points. So low that they need to do something about this now. They don't have much more time to waste. And it's going to be real tough because they've got Heretics approaching. They've got Khorne Marines approaching. They need something on that point. This is actually not looking good. A War Boss is killed in retreat trying to revive another War Boss. And this, you know, as much as some things were going well for the Orcs, this is looking like it actually might be game right here. Orcs in full retreat. Cap is going to be started by these Chaos Space Marines. I don't think there are enough Orc units here. Okay, they're going to get a decap on the Chaos Space Marines natural. Of course, any decap you get on your opponent's natural, it's more of a stalling tactic, really, rather than really like an outright winning tactic. So, Death Dread, meanwhile, was being targeted, but the Plague Marines, now stunned, and in melee with the Death Dread. Death Dread knocks them out of the way. That's actually kind of bad. It's only going to take one more missile. Yeah, well, that special attack actually kind of screwed the Death Dread because it knocked the Plague Marines out of the way so that they could actually get off another missile shot. So, 2-to-1 cap for our cast players, but not going to last much longer. Marky Mark sadly calling GG, and it's looking like it might be GG for our Orc players. Heretics going to be suppressing this squad of Tank Busters. Tank Busters losing 2 of their models. Oh, ouch. Losing 3, in fact. Heretics, meanwhile, now getting into melee with the Shooter Boys. And it's spiraling out of control for our Orc players. And I think this is actually it. Yeah, that's going to be game 2 going in favor of our cast players. Just not enough Orc players are going to be able to get out of here, get to this victory point in time for the decap. And we're actually at the point of no return where even if they can start a decap, it won't finish in time. So, maybe triple War Boss was not the play. Maybe going to be needed. Something a little bit more, some more of that non-linear approach from the mech boy or the commando knob to answer that chaos range blob from best noob, or really just some of the other challenges coming out of those chaos players. So, game number 2 in favor of the chaos. Time for game number 4. Alright then, game number 4 in our Faction War series. Chaos is on match point, and our first Chaos player is going to be Asmon Ellington, playing as the Chaos Lord. Asmon in this game has leveled up his Chaos army to level 8. Chaos Lord is going to be a tanky melee hero who walks through cover and cannot be suppressed, just like we see him walking through cover right there. Not just cover, but that was straight up a wall. Next up, we are going to have Cenzontotochtin playing as Sindri, Trollface, Chaos Sorcerer. This is a spell-casting and battlefield manipulation hero. And finally, Relentless Lacia, or really Best Noob, playing as the Plague Champion, a ranged Chaos Commander with a damage over time bolter. Can also heal and repair. On the Orc team, it's going to be Nimmsi, playing as the War Boss, tanky melee hero who walks through cover but can be suppressed, very aggressive with charging and stuff. Just kidding. Next up, it's going to be Marky Mark, this time playing as an Orc Commando Knob, sneaky Orc with bombs, guns, knives, etc. And finally, it is going to be Dark Riku coming back in yet again as the Mech Boy, ranged Orc Commander who can repair and teleport. So what are the Orcs going to do now that their backs are up against the wall? We are going to see the Mech Boy aggressively teleporting in. Probably wants to tie up the Chaos Space Marines, even though he doesn't directly win that fight, but he can shut down their range damage, allowing the rest of his army to do damage without being shot at in return. But this is going to be a winning engagement for our Chaos players right there. Sorcerer in a lot of trouble, though. Does not realize that he is being peppered down by the Commando Knob from Marky Mark. And this Commando Knob from Marky Mark, I think he's trying to infiltrate, but I think as long as he is being... Right now, he has not re-infiltrated yet. He's just constantly being attacked by those heretics. So Riku calling not to engage because there are 2. Victory point lead for our Orcs at the moment, 500 to 476. And it is going to be the Mech Boy as well as some shooters trying to focus down this Chaos Lord. It's happened a little bit slowly, though, so slowly that there is enough time for some Chaos Space Marines to try to provide some support. But these Chaos Space Marines, now they are all by themselves against a whole Orc Wa. Chaos players, meanwhile, looking for a double cap with the interesting, oh, and by the way, this is Hades' Waste. The victory points here, which they're natural victory points, but they're actually not too far apart. Not too big of a push to go get your opponent's natural victory point. And oh, this could that be a Sluggo wipe in retreat? So close. 2-1-0. Ouch. Early Sluggo wipe. That was from Dark Riku, losing that squad of Sluggos. Alright, War Boss, Mech Boy, and Shooter Boy is trying to take down this generator. Stun Bomb's going to go in, not going to connect. It is seen and responded to, but this is kind of just a head-to-head fight. No one's in cover. There is the Heretic Worship, though, going to be giving Chaos players a bit of an advantage. There's the Tzeentch Worship, going to be using that to get the Sorcerer into melee with this Luda to shut it down and tie it up. Ultimately, a well-managed engagement by our Chaos players. One squad of Chaos Space Marines, though, getting a little bit low on hit points, so finally gets into some cover and is still benefiting from that worship. Commando Knob trying to burn down the Heretic models, but there... Oh, no, he's going down in a retreat for sure. I mean, ideally, I feel like he would want to go for more of a... like a flanking angle, so that he's just not right there, taking so much damage. Use that infiltration to get into a better position instead of just kind of acting like a typical main range team. So Power Bash is going to start happening for our Chaos players between the Raptors, the Heretics, and the Chaos Space Marines. Should not take too long to take down some of these generators. Where is this Luda squad going? Marky Mark, what did you do? You just lost a Luda squad. Oh no. Oh no. This is looking worse and worse. This is not a good start for our Orc team. Alright, the best that can be said is that the generator bash has been slowed down by quite a bit. But Chaos Space Marines and the Plague Champion going to finish off at least that one generator. One generator, though, not hugely impactful, and we are seeing our Orc players move back out to try to push this generator back, push this generator push back. Luda shots going in, but they suppress so slowly compared to other units. Finally, some suppression is starting to happen. I think this is why you don't see Ludas that much. They take quite a bit of time to suppress, especially compared to those Havocs from the side of the Chaos team. And it doesn't even look like this push is going to be halted by our Orc players at the moment. Just the use of that Nurgle worship is just proving to be too much. Meanwhile, on this side, oh no, Slug is just trying to get back a natural requisition point, getting hit by a special attack, doing massive damage. If it weren't for that special attack, they could have overwhelmed the Sorcerer, but I mean, I guess at some point the Sorcerer can... Oh no, that's going to be a wipe on the squad. And with that sync kill, tossing him over. And that's the end of the Slugga's squad. That is rough. Oh my god, this might be a quick end to our series in favor of the Chaos team. So many generators have already been killed. So many squads have already been killed. More generators going down while Chaos players are right in front of them. We're going to see some Sluggas approach them, but where is the support for those Sluggas? Going in by themselves can put them in a lot of trouble. Yeah, the support is coming in a little bit too late. Not quite, Nimmsi not quite coordinated there with Marky Mark. Suppression actually happening by the Ludas this time to try to scare off these Chaos Space Marines. And so it does look like Best Noob really favors that Plague Champion, and I do personally feel the Plague Champion is often considered bad in 1v1, and in 1v1 is probably considered the worst Chaos hero. Almost definitely, I would say. But in team games, I actually feel he is quite strong because of that extra range damage he provides, and also because of the sustainability of that Nurgle worship. So Ludas will scare off the heretics, but I mean these Chaos Space Marines are content to just shoot at the generator outside of the Luda range, and then they just back off in time. They might even be able to get another angle where they might be able to shoot at this generator without being targeted by the Ludas. And this is, I mean, this is not going well. We even have a Shrine of Nurgle being put up. Oh my god. Doombolt's going to go in, do a lot of damage. Okay, this is just some oppression right here. Chaos players are almost at the point where they're starting to toy with their food. But here is a Death Dread coming out, and our Orc player is actually faster to Tier 2 than our Chaos players, all things considered. So that will be the Shrine of Nurgle dislodged. Actually faster to kill it, I believe, with the Burna. But he might be trying to go for splash damage. But splash damage on what? Maybe while the heretics were still around it. Touch of Nurgle, though, might be able to keep our Chaos players in here, even with that Shrine of Nurgle being taken down. Touch of Nurgle putting in quite a lot of work. Ludas once again in trouble. These Ludas just not having a good day. It's just not a day for Ludas, apparently. Alright, we are going to see that Plague Champion chooses to get even more on the field sustain with the Mucus Discharge.
Who rises from these ranks?
Chaos Space Marines will be suppressed, I'm pretty sure, by aiming what's that. They have Khorne Marines now. They've got the Mark of Khorne, so they are Khorne Marines. While it looks like we might have a Chaos Lord going down in retreat, and indeed that will happen. So Khorne Marines are in here, and Khorne Marines are good, but this is up against quite a few Sluggas. But there is the Bloodlust Global. How are these Khorne Marines going to do? Khorne Marines actually going to possibly finish off the Sluggas, and they do indeed finish off the Sluggas. Meanwhile, this other squad of Khorne Marines, so 2 squads of Khorne Marines from Asmon Ellington, buffed by the Bloodlust Global, absolutely going to be ripping apart Nimmsi's army. Taking apart a squad of Shooter Boys as well. This will probably be the time that they retreat, since that is a Storm Boy squad with a knob. Does stun the Khorne Marines. No, these are heretics, just kidding. And the Corn Marines, I was going to say, it looks like they're choosing to stay in there, but not up against the use your choppas from these Storm Boys from Nimmsi.
We have the advantage.
Meanwhile, down here, it's going to be a war truck, but it's also going to be a bunch of orcs being melted by a plague cloud. Oh my god, so many orcs have died in the making of this faction war. It's weird because when I look at the unit counts, it doesn't look that out of favor for the orcs, but it just feels like they've lost so much already. They've lost so many squads. We're going to see this Death Dread trying to chase down the Plague Marines. Plague Marines do get another missile shot off, snaring it. Special attack also knocking down those Plague Marines, but still trying to tie them up in melee. Chaos Space Marines completely ignoring the Death Dread because they don't do any significant damage to it, except now they're actually targeting it. So we are seeing the effectiveness of the Death Dread, even with army disadvantages, that Death Dread being effective because of the rather minimal anti-vehicle response coming out of our Chaos players. A lot of them not choosing to get Havocs, which means they don't have easy transitional war gear purchases or upgrade purchases to deal with vehicles in Tier 2. Instead, they've got to purchase entirely new units. And choosing to get these Plague Marines, best noob is Plague Marines, not exactly a hard anti-vehicle response, but I think this Death Dread now going to be a little bit overwhelmed. I think it's trying to use its charge to get out. I think it will take at least one more shot. We are going to see the Sluggers attempt to repair it, but instead the Sluggers go down instead, and the Death Dread, this Death Dread is dead. No, just kidding. Now it's being repaired. I thought that last missile shot was going to do it, but I think the Plague Marines get another missile off, and that will be it. Yes. Oh no, Marky Mark has no army. Sluggers, meanwhile, opening fire on some Chaos Space Marines, but it looks like the Heretics will get into melee. The lead model of the Ludas also die. Oh no, this is the end of the Ludas as well. End of the Ludas. And you know what? I think this is the end of our faction war. After such a crazy game 1, and then a comeback by our Orc players in game 2, I think this is going to be a little bit of a lopsided victory in game 4. I mean, the game, they have not called concede yet, but they've lost so much. Victory points soon going to be ticking down in favor of our Chaos players. We've got double Chaos Space Marines with no mark, which is interesting to see. They both have Aspiring Champions, and we see that effect of that bolter effect coming from, I believe it's the Slaughter ability, which is an ability that you get from getting an Aspiring Champion on your Chaos Space Marine squad, but not upgrading to a mark. Death Dread, meanwhile, is in here. Right now, the anti-vehicle responses are pretty light, except for the fact that a Khorne Dreadnought is on its way, and the Khorne Dreadnought, straight up, 1-to-1, will beat a Death Dread. Of course, it is much more expensive, so it kind of should. While the Khorne Marines are providing some light anti-vehicle... The Khorne Marines might actually just kill this Death Dread by itself, with the Dreadnought ever being a factor. And I think that's going to happen. I mean, we see the Death Dread charging out, but Khorne Marines are fast. They do have higher base movement speed than other squads, and Nimmsi is calling that as a GG. I really don't see our Chaos players coming back into the game at this point. Cenzontotochtin already in Tier 3, stacking up resources. At this point, what is he going to get, a Land Raider Phobos? I mean, that would be funny just to see it come out, and for our Orc players to just be like, okay. So 1-0 cap. Now 2-0 cap. Generator's going to be bashed. This is... Yes, this game is over. There really is no coming back from this, I think. Tier 3 being purchased for Best Noob. Predator coming out for Cenzontotochtin. Marky Mark literally has nothing but a Commando Knob, and soon he's not even going to have that. War Boss goes down as well. What else is going to happen? We are going to see. We're going to see some powers of the warp doing some crazy things to this Stormboy, and finally he does settle down and is able to rest in peace and then just evaporate into the ether. Weird Boy shots going in, actually doing pretty minimal damage. I mean, it did kill a model there, but because the squad was split apart by its worship, did not actually take the amount of damage it normally would. Okay, actually looted tank out from attempted let the galaxy burn, only shooting out one fireball. But looted tank is now out for Marky Mark. So somehow, some way, these Orc players at least still trying to play this game. We'll see how effective it is. Revives coming out on Orc heroes. Marky Mark is revived. Where is Nimmsi? Nimmsi is going to be all the way over here, so that is going to need to be a little bit of a trip. Looks like Dark Riku will make that trip with his level 5 mech boy that will be upgraded, or rather leveled up to level 6 after getting the revive on the war boss. Raptor's going to jump in though, and there's just not enough of an Orc army here to do anything about those Raptors, and they lead the way for the Khorne Marines to come in, who are even more dangerous than the Raptors, especially at level 4. Las Cannons coming out from who? Not from this Predator, that's going to be a Nurgle Predator, and the Las Cannon Havoc will be coming out on the field. And I was going to say, just for a second there, it looked like our Orc players trying to fight back, but instead that is the concede, and that will be the 3-1 victory for Chaos. And the end of our faction war. I do hope that you enjoyed it. Have a good night.